Yeah, so probably the biggest decision that I've had to make, biggest life-changing decision I've had to make was a decision I made about 5 years ago to leave the academic world and work solely with organizations. So for a number of years, I started teaching in 2011, and for almost 10 years, I was inside of academia primarily and then working a little bit, but a lot of different things happened around COVID and what have you that led to the decision. And I haven't looked back. It was the right decision to make, but I won't lie. It was a scary decision because you've got the comfort, what you're used to, you've got tenure, you've got all of those sort of things that you step away from to take something more entrepreneurial. But in the end, it ended up being the definitely the right decision.
Wow. So, and what was happening before you made the choice? And how you made this shift from teaching the classroom to shaping leadership practices inside companies like Adobe, NASA, and Facebook?
Yeah, yeah. So a couple of things were sort of happening all at once, right? So in 2016, I wrote a book. I did a bunch of research and then wrote a book for practitioners called Under New Management that was all about kind of the future of work and workplace trends. One of those trends was remote collaboration, was flexible work hours and people who didn't, companies that didn't have offices and what have you. And then when COVID hit, you can imagine that got pretty popular. There were a lot of people who were passing that chapter of the book around. And in the end, what I kind of started doing was juggling two balls in the air, right? One was still teaching virtually for all of my students. And then the other was doing webinars and trainings inside of different organizations. But there was always going to be a tension there because as one got busier and busier, it got harder to maintain the other one. The other thing that happened is starting in about 2018, I had a good friend of mine who we started to have some conversations about my frustrations with the academic world. Things move very slowly in the academic world. Pushing out new ideas moves very, very slowly. And the line from when you're first doing the research and having the idea to when you can see it have impact in companies it's a very long line. And I started to wonder if we could kind of shorten it. And after a lot of different conversations with him and a few other people, I kind of decided I need to be more active in speaking to organizations, consulting with organizations, running workshops for organizations. So I was already sort of doing that inside of 2020. And then I'm juggling both during COVID times. I'm doing it all remotely. I'm literally right here in this exact same room. This is the room the decision was made in. Hamilton reference for you, right? This is the room where it happened. And in the end, it came down to a relatively easy decision to make. The university wanted to bring courses back on campus. And I realized I have too many days that I'm already committed to working with organizations to be able to do justice to teach my classes. And so when they said, you've got to come back, I basically said, no, I don't. I'm not. I resigned. So in the end, it was one of those weird things where you sweat the decision for like 2 years. The decision's in the back of my mind. And I think this is the case with a lot of people. For like 2 years, the decision's in the back of my mind. Should I do it? Should I not do it? Should I do it? Should I not do it? And in the end, the circumstances kind of dictated that like, yeah, you should do it. And it's the right call.
Thanks for sharing that. And so, what advice would you give to someone facing a big life decision now? This is advice for our audience. This is advice for Gen Z.
Yeah. So I would say to the extent that you can get some psychological distance from what you are trying to make a decision about, that can help tremendously. There's a number of studies and a growing body of evidence that suggests that the best thing to ask yourself when you have to make a big decision isn't what should I do? It's what would I tell my best friend to do if they were facing the same decision? And the reason is that you get that psychological distance where you can actually think a little more clearly. You're a little less emotionally removed from the decision. For me, I had that friend that had numerous conversations with over time who could be that person for me and give me that advice, right? But I think you can do the exact same thing mentally if you start to think, okay, what would I tell my best friend to do in this scenario? That's a pretty good indication that it's what you actually should do.
So, we prepared questions for you based on your book. And our first question is, all the teams hold command and control. Gen Z wants co-creation. What are 3 radical tips leaders must follow to build a better Gen Z team?
Yeah. So I would say the first thing, if we're thinking about how do we move from command and control to collaboration and to co-creation, is as leaders, we need to get very clear on what good looks like, right? You may not be able to dictate exactly how people are going to do the work we need to do, but you have to give them a very clear sense of here's what we want to accomplish, and I'm open to ideas on how we accomplish it. I can't micromanage and tell you how, right? So number one is that idea of clarity along with some understanding that there's flexibility here. Number two is you've got to respect their contributions, even if you don't agree with them. You don't have to agree with them, but when you're leading a team and you're trying to co-create what we're going to do as a team and how we're going to accomplish our tasks, they're going to submit ideas that don't sound like the brightest ideas out there. But if you shoot them down, you'll never get ideas from them again. And we call this psychological safety inside of the model, which I know we'll dive into a bit, but that's kind of what it means to be applied. You don't have to agree with them, but you do have to hear their idea out and help bring them to the place where they see it's not the right idea. You have to train them to think the way you think so that in the future, you can trust how they think, right? And then the third, and I think the most important for keeping motivation high, et cetera, is you've got to remind the team to be united around what I would call who is served by the work that we do. That we have a clear and concise definition of here's what we want to accomplish. I'm open to ideas on how we want to accomplish it. And here is the good we're going to do in the world by doing it. There's a lot of research that suggests, we call this pro-social motivation, or in the book, pro-social purpose. There's a lot of research that suggests that Gen Z in particular is far more motivated by that pro-social element, the desire to protect and promote the well-being of others, than previous generations. And so they're looking to you as the leader to tell that story about the good we're doing in the world by being a part of this. That'll keep them engaged in the task for a lot longer.
Wow, impressive. And so, okay, let's go forward. If you look at the triangle, common understanding, psychological safety, and pro-social purpose, is it one size fits all? Or when working with Gen Z, do leaders need to put special accents? Here is a triangle.
Yeah, so this is our model of what makes for the best team ever, and the way in which these different three elements, common understanding, which is a mix of clear roles and responsibilities, but also empathy and understanding for others. Psychological safety, which is the trust that you have in the team to speak your mind, and the feeling of respect that you have after you share what you're really thinking. And pro-social purpose, which is meaning here defined as that you make a contribution, and impact defined as who is served, like you know who is impacted by that work. When you look at the research on Gen Z in particular, I would say it's still one size fits all, but Gen Z tends to skew toward that pro-social purpose and psychological safety side, right? I don't think you can lead them without this sense of common understanding, but as I was saying earlier, they're going to want to know what is the good we're doing in the world. They're going to want to know, they're going to want to work in an environment where they feel like they can speak their mind and make a contribution. So you're going to want to focus in more on that psychological safety and that pro-social purpose element. Those are also going to be the areas that are broken most easily, potentially, if you're a leader from a different generation trying to bridge that gap.
Thank you so much. So, clarity drives performance, but over clarity risks micromanagement. How do leaders strike the balance between clear direction and creative freedom?
Yeah, one of the things I've become a big fan of, and we talk about it a bit in the book, is this concept of commander's intent. It's a tool I learned from working with the United States Navy. And the idea with commander's intent is that as you're starting a mission, and that can be like a tactical, actual, fighting mission, but it can be a simple logistical mission. Our mission is to transport these supplies here or there. When you give mission directives, you also give commander's intent, which is a clear and concise statement of here's what we're doing, here's how I think it should be done, but here's what my definition of done looks like. And the reason you want to do that is that, look, no plan survives first contact with reality. You're going to need to tap your brilliant minds, especially your Gen Z brilliant minds, to get creative and problem solve to stay on track. Because as you try and implement, especially a long-term project, you're going to get off track. But if you've given them that clear and concise definition of this is what done looks like, then you're better prepared to have a conversation about the ways they want to change the how, since we all know that we're working towards the same end, that same what done looks like. That lets you still kind of be insistent on what acceptable deliverable is, but also give them that creative freedom. And it keeps you from having to manage the how, the micromanagement, because you know you can trust them. They're doing their best to deliver that clear done.
Wow. So, What traits matter most in an ideal Gen Z teammate? Humility, hunger, empathy, or something entirely new?
Yeah, I think I would say, in particular, when you're newer entering the workforce, and so this isn't particular to Gen Z, but it is particular what Gen Z is facing now. The combination of humility and hunger is really powerful, right? Humility being like, I saw this. I mean, I taught business school, so I saw this for 10 years. Students getting out, they've been filled with 4 years or 2 years in the case of my MBA students of new knowledge, and they want to get out there and show off what they know. But there's a whole industry they have to learn about. And so the humility to say, not that I have all the answers, but I have some answers and I'm hungry to learn more, that's a powerful combination inside of any new member of an organization. So I won't say it's a long-term Gen Z thing, but it's my advice to Gen Z right now is the best way you can be seen as that ideal team player is to be humble, but also hungry.
Oh, thanks. And last question for today is, respectful disagreement fuels progress. How do coach teams to argue ideas without attacking people?
Yeah. So what I do here is I set some ground rules when we're discussing and debating something. And one is you never attack people. I also coach them to never attack the idea. So you never say something like that idea is dumb or that idea is too expensive or that idea is whatever. What you do is you explore the assumptions behind the idea. If two smart people disagree, it's not because one's being logical and one's illogical. It's usually because they're both being logical from a different set of assumptions. So we want to figure out what those assumptions are. So instead of saying, oh, your idea is way too expensive, you might say, well, have you thought about what the budget would be for that? What are the assumptions you're making about costs? We need to explore those, right? So we need to uncover whether or not those assumptions are true. And when you do that, you foster respectful dissent. But I think something really cool happens too. If you end up in a situation where the person you disagreed with ends up right, you still saved face and you still built trust with that person that you were willing to consider it, right? They're not going to spike the football and say, I was right and you were wrong. They're just going to say, well, I'm glad we found that out together, which makes it way easier to stay respectful the next time you disagree. What matters most for Gen Z in teamwork? I'm
Yeah,
going to go with shared purpose, feeling our team's work has meaning.
yeah.
All right.
Shared purpose or respectful conflict.
Well, I think if we're talking about long-term performance, respectful conflict, right? Because we need to learn how to get those best ideas out.
Empathy in action or respectful conflict.
Well, I don't know that you can have respectful conflict without that empathy and action sense, but so let's go with that. Yeah.
Empathy in action.
Yeah.
Empathy in action. Freedom with clarity.
So I think for Gen Z, especially that freedom with clarity, right? That idea that I know what I'm pursuing, but I've got the freedom to go about it in a way that I choose.
Freedom with clarity or open trust.
Open trust. I'm a huge proponent of open trust, no matter what the generations are, but especially inside of Gen Z.
Open trust or safe space.
I'm actually going to go with open trust again. I think safe spaces are important, but I think you can't get there unless you feel like your leaders are admitting mistakes and that you can too.
Safe. Clear goals and roles or safe space.
Well, in terms of performance, in terms of actually getting performance done, I think it may be clear goals and roles, but I'm trying to think through Gen Z and maybe it is still safe space.
Recognition or safe space.
Hmm. I think having your contribution value to notice is a great way to keep inside of engagement. So I'm going to go with that one.
Recognition.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And so our winner is recognition.
Yeah. Interesting.
What drives Gen Z engagement and teamwork? Clarity first or voice and choice?
Voice and choice.
Voice and choice or freedom to act?
Freedom to act. Yeah, no micromanagement. That's exactly that subtitle underneath is exactly what I'm thinking.
Freedom to act or diversity of ideas?
So here I still think freedom to act. There's a lot of research on diversity of ideas, but if we're thinking about what engages Gen Z in teamwork, that feeling that you're still free, you're not listening to a micromanager.
Oh yeah, freedom to act. Freedom to act or recognition and trust?
Let's go with recognition and trust.
Respect and roles or recognition and trust?
I'm still going with recognition and trust, I think.
Visible impact or recognition and trust?
Ooh, I think visible impact, again, knowing who is served and why what we're doing is so important.
Yeah. Visible impact or co-creation?
Co-creation.
Purpose above profit or co-creation?
Purpose. Purpose above profit.
And
And I think I'm still going to go with purpose above profit. Yeah.
okay. This is our winner.
Yeah. Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. Purpose above profit. What gives Gen Z meaning at work? First, human impact or personal growth?
Human impact.
Human impact. Yes. Legacy thinking of human impact.
Human impact.
Human impact or purpose fit?
Purpose fit. Yeah.
Values aligned with the team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Symbolic reminders or purpose fit?
Still purpose fit.
Values. Sure. Recognition or purpose fit?
Still purpose fit.
Okay. Gen Z like when they notice and valued, but still purpose fit exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Again, not to say recognition is not important, but
Okay. Clear big why or purpose fit? They look like the same.
yeah. Well, I'm just thinking about them in different ways, right? I think that let's go with clearer, bigger why. Why not?
Clear big why or team wins?
Still clearer, bigger why.
Big goals, think big, big tasks. Okay. Clear big why or shared stories? Based on
So here I might actually vote. I might actually vote shared stories because they get remembered more than a vague sense of why. Yeah.
was the last one. Invisible results or shared stories?
I like shared stories still. I do. And that means that one's going to float to the top.
That will be our winner. Yeah, pretty.
Yeah.
Shared stories, clear big why and purpose fit our winners. The question is, what built trust fastest in a Gen Z team?
Leaders show flaws. Yeah.
Leaders show flaws or consistent actions?
That's still leaders show flaws.
Leadership flaws or feedback with care?
Still leaders show flaws, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Leaders show flaws or respect and conflict?
On the tail end of respecting conflict, you get more trust. So yeah, let's go with that.
celebrating fails or respecting them.
Celebrating failures. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because again, it shows you that mistakes are lessons, which makes you more likely to trust to share them. I'm still going to go with celebrating fails on this one too.
Active listening or celebrating fails.
Active listening.
Fair rules or active listening.
Yeah, fair rules.
Fair rules or peer support.
Fair rules.
Our winner is fair rules, but first transparent updates.
Yeah.
Thank you for so much for your answers.